Part 94. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 931. The only thing they can do is to strive to enter the eternal level before the void is completely destroyed. At that level, at least he could survive, even if the void was occupied by strangeness. Maybe after waiting for countless years, the strange ones will also appear their enemies. At that time, they can use their eternal power to recreate the world, open up life, and resow the retained fire into the void. But the premise of all this is that they must step into the eternal level before destruction comes. Only by stepping into the eternal level can there be any chance of surviving the disaster of destruction in the future. At this time, the president of the Void Destiny Committee suddenly said, "In addition to the news you sent about this incident, I also received another news. That news allowed me to see the details of sealing the ancient gods. After some investigation, I found someone. A man named Lin Yi. He is very strange and mysterious. When this man was exploring the ruins of the ancient god, he was with a man named Aliata. This Aliata comes from another world group and has a very special identity, belonging to an ancient civilized empire. And the reason why she found Lin Yi seems to be because of the use of miracle coin. The miracle coin told her that she could find out the truth about the disappearance of the ancient god through this person. After you sent back the news, this young lady named Aliata reported what she saw in the ruins of the ancient god. The on-site information about the sealing of the ancient god was passed to a member of our command. He is from the Strange Land Exploration Team, and his name is Ren Wudi. This team member conveyed this information to me through the bright moon night. Because of this news, it triggered a series of things that followed. An attack suddenly broke out in the Void City, which attracted my attention. Messed up my decision. Finally, when I solved all the problems and got to the scene, there was nothing there. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that this person named Lin Yi. I've looked into his information. I was very shocked by the conclusions. This man has appeared in strange places in the past, and accidentally saved our exploration team, Ren Wubai and other members of his team. What surprised me the most was that a shop called Wanchaiwa run by this man actually appeared in the void. That really surprised me. This man's house of everything is made of weird items. But he was not corroded by the strange power at all. It looks like it's protected by some kind of power. Now this All Things house is located in Crescent Base and has become the most famous stronghold there. This house of everything has developed a system called Bounty Hunter. By completing the tasks issued by the store, you can exchange for various things. There is something called the Talent Orb among them. I checked it and found this thing called the Talent Orb. It is a talent extracted from living bodies and can be used by anyone. It can turn an ordinary person into a genius in some aspect. The effect is amazing and the potential is extremely powerful. However, although these shocked me, they were not enough to attract my attention. What really caught my attention was that in all the information I read, I saw one thing. This man seems not to be afraid of strange powers at all. I even used illuminating the infinite world to take a closer look at the house of everything where he was. I can clearly see that there is no trace of strange power in this person. Do you know what this means? A mysterious figure who can freely enter and exit strange places, and can roam in the void. He has a large number of strange items in his hands, but he is not corrupted by the strangeness at all. This is the biggest anomaly. I suspect this guy has some tricks up his sleeve. If my guess is true, then the value of this person will be unlimited. And this man's fighting ability is also extraordinary. He once had a battle with some strong men in Crescent Base. The means are astonishing. I got first-hand information from the Lord of Wisdom. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and a real picture appeared in the eyes of the Lord of the Immortal Palace and the Master of Souls. Then they saw a scene that shocked them. Astonishingly, it was a scene of Lin Yi fighting against the 8 masters of the Golden Spirit King alone. The scene of coming and going freely, controlling the rhythm of the entire battle, made them feel sincerely shocked. The power this man used was extraordinary. Even a miracle coin couldn't kill him directly. This has never happened before, it's unbelievable. The Lord of the Immortal Palace said with some amazement. The Soul Master on the side also shone with surprise in his eyes. This was the first time he saw a power system like Lin Yi's. His power is very strange. It looks like an immortal, but in fact there are other things hidden inside. That thing is the secret that allows him to ignore all attacks. That's his real method of evading the strange power. The Soul Master has a keen eye and caught something at once. So, we need to contact this person. The president seemed to have expected the reactions of the two people, and nodded with satisfaction. Then who will go? The Soul Master thought for a while. I am very interested in this person's power, I will go and see. I practice the way of the soul, and I can detect many secrets hidden in the soul of life. You may not be able to ask anything, but I may not be able to. The president nodded. In this case, then you go. The words in the palace gradually disappeared, and a meeting ended here. The Wanchi house was peaceful, and the bar was noisy. A large number of bounty hunters appeared here. They tasted the wine of the Wanchi house and talked about their tasks. These tasks are very simple for them. Even if they are as strong as the tasks of the Earth Immortal Dao level, they are easy to deal with those who venture into the void. The tasks of the Wanchi house are basically in short supply, and they can solve as many as they want. And they can exchange these simple tasks for gems that improve their talents. There are even lifespans that can avoid various training disasters. For this reason, some people even wait in front of the door of the Wanchaiwu every day, and rush in as soon as the door opens. Wanchaiwu has become the most popular place in the New Moon base. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 932. The latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu I Created is updated the fastest. However, no one will make trouble in the Wanchaiwu, because they are already familiar with the fact that Lin Yi fought against 8 masters alone and was safe and sound. Overwhelming power, huge benefits, everyone is well behaved. And today, a wonderful thing happened in the Wanchaiwu. A weapon table appeared on one side of the bar, on which various exquisite weapons were placed. At this time, the area of the lobby of the Wanchaiwu has expanded to hundreds of square meters, which is the power of the underground maze. At this time, the abilities of various strange items in the Wanchaiwu can be applied to any area, as long as Lin Yi controls it. Suddenly, a weapon display cabinet appeared, which naturally attracted a lot of attention. At this time, Absinthe stood in front of the weapon display cabinet with a weird smile on his face. Behind him stood vodka and whiskey. The two of them were like door gods, shocking everyone. Because they have followed Lin Yi for a long time, they will give priority to each task, and only after they have been selected will they be placed in the Wanchaiwu, waiting for other bounty hunters to execute. Now each of them has reached the power level of the earthly immortal Dao, and all of them are at the peak level of combat power. At this time, Absinthe was holding a big loudspeaker in his hand, and he only heard him slowly say, "Attention, ladies and gentlemen, please look over here." The huge voice sounded throughout the Wanchi house, attracting everyone's attention. Among them, there was a person shrouded in a black robe, making it difficult to see his true face. His eyes were also attracted by Absinthe. Ghost? What an interesting life form. It is rare to see a ghost that can match the level of the earthly immortal Dao, and it can even come to the void. This person is the Soul Master. I don't know when he has come to the Wanchi house. He looks like an ordinary bounty hunter staying here, listening to people talking, chatting, and collecting information. At this time, on a table, Aliatha was enjoying fine wine, with a dazed look in his eyes, looking at Absinthe and shouting loudly. Absinthe, fart quickly, don't disturb me drinking. He, Absinthe glanced at Aliatha and smiled. Today the store manager has launched a new item that can be purchased with world coins. You will definitely like this item. When Red Parker heard this, he stretched his head and looked at the weapon display cabinet behind him, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. Are there any special features of these weapons? Absinthe looked at this old customer with a faint smile in his eyes. Of course there are special effects. Using these weapons can really kill the weird. I believe everyone present has fought with the weird. The most troublesome thing about them is their immortality. Even if they are cut into countless pieces, they will return to their original state as long as there is time. So if you want to completely eliminate the weird, you must use spiritual energy to neutralize the weird power on them. But neutralizing the weird power is not the end of everything. Even if the weird body is destroyed, their essence will not be destroyed. On the contrary, their essence will be integrated into the spiritual cycle of the world. Eventually, it will continue to erode the world and then lead to the destruction of the world. Therefore, once the weird existence is found in the world, the usual method is to seal it. Then take them out of the world to slow down the speed of the world being eroded. But it's different with these weapons behind me. Its function is to completely eliminate the weird essence 100% of the time. Because it has a unique power. Listening to the introduction of Absinthe, the whole bar suddenly exploded. Someone shouted in surprise, "This is impossible. No one has ever been able to eliminate the weird essence. That is something that can only be sealed. Even the chairman of the Void Fate Committee cannot eliminate the weird essence. Are you talking nonsense?" Looks full of doubt looked at Absinthe. Absinthe smiled and said, "We never lie in the Wanchai Wu. Since you say you can do it, then you can definitely do it. If you don't believe me, I'll give you an experiment on the spot." As Absinthe's voice fell, a strange existence trapped by a spell appeared in front of him. A green talisman appeared on the head of this strange existence. A green chain of light spread from the talisman, locking every part of this strange existence. This strange existence is not a humanoid structure. Its lower body is composed of countless tentacles, and its upper body is made of strange limbs stitched together. This is an aggressive killing machine. Book Friends benefits: you can get cash or points by reading books, and iPhone 12 and Switch are waiting for you to draw. Follow the WeChat public account Book Friends Basecamp to get it. But at this time, it has been completely blocked. Everyone was stunned when they saw the strange existence that appeared in front of Absinthe. They didn't expect that there would be a strange existence that was captured in the Wanchi house. Absinthe showed a smile on his face, and he casually took out a knife from the weapon cabinet. The knife was filled with a hazy light, which was gray and had an inexplicable negative fluctuation. He raised the knife in his hand, poured his strength into it, and then swung it down suddenly. The knife light chopped at the strange existence, and the gray knife light instantly split the strange existence in half. An amazing scene happened. After the knife light bloomed, the strange existence fell directly to the ground, motionless. Then its body began to carbonize rapidly, and finally turned into countless ashes. At this time, everyone could feel that the strange power was disappearing rapidly. The normal strange power was neutralized by the spiritual energy attached to the weapon. The power of the strange essence seemed to be eliminated by some kind of power. After feeling this scene, everyone cried out in surprise. How is it possible? The strange essence has been eliminated. This is true. A noisy voice continued to sound, and countless people's eyes showed surprise. Among them, the Soul Master in black robe was the most surprised. His eyes flashed with unimaginable mysteries, and he could see through most of the secrets in the world. Even the weird essence could not escape his eyes. At this moment, he saw with his own eyes that the weird essence was destroyed by a cyan light. Or it was swallowed up and entered the spiritual level. He could not see where the cyan light swallowed the weird essence. but he was sure that the weird essence did not merge into the void. He took a deep breath. It seems that I have to meet the boss of this Xuanhuan. This power is extraordinary. This power must be spread out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 933. Absinthe smiled slowly. Now you should see the result and know that I didn't lie to you, right? This is a piece of equipment called Lingbo weapon, developed by Xuanhuan. This weapon is divided into 5 levels. S, A, B, C, D. The low-level sells for 10 energy world coins, C sells for 5 material world coins, B sells for 3 space world coins, A sells for 2 time world coins, S sells for 1 soul world coin. The higher the level, the more energy it stores, and the longer it can last. Lingbo weapon is a storage weapon, and the most important thing about it is the energy in it. This energy has the potential to destroy the essence of weirdness. When your energy is exhausted, you can come to Xuanhuan to recharge. The cost of recharging is only 1 energy world coin. It is a benefit of Xuanhuan for all warriors who destroy weirdness. Absinthe had a faint smile on his face, but those in Xuanhuan were completely crazy. Red Parker was the first to come over, and a soul coin was placed in front of him. I want an S-level weapon. Absinthe had a smile on his face. Of course, no problem, welcome to buy. A crazy trade began. From S level to D level, all Lingbo weapons were sold out in a short time. The bounty hunters who didn't buy them were even more heartbroken. These Lingbo weapons were hoarded by Lin Yi for a few days and then sold together. The total number is about 20,000, of which the S level is composed of 10 Tianren relics, and the lower level is 1 Tianren relic, and the stored Lingbo is naturally different. Lin Yi also improved these weapons. The Tianren relic in each weapon will be modified by him, injected with more evil principles, and become more perfect. The final Lingbo weapon, even if it is D level, can destroy at least 100 ghost fairy level weird existences. After selling all the Lingbo weapons on the same day, Lin Yi received a large amount of weird essence the next day. His spiritual wave sphere is growing at an alarming rate. Sitting in front of the French window, quietly drinking a cup of black tea, Lin Yi felt the peace of the world. Everything was so comfortable. This is the life you want, the life of a landlord who sits and counts money. At this time, the door of the Xuanhuan was slowly pushed open, and a figure in a black robe walked in. He quietly came to Lin Yi. Can I sit opposite you, Manager Lin Yi? Lin Yi's eyes fell on the black-robed man, and the power of the true destiny flashed in his eyes. Hello, what's the matter? The figure in the black robe was the Soul Master. That day, the Xuanhuan sold spiritual wave weapons and he bought one himself. He took it to the chairman of the Void Destiny Committee and studied it with the Lord of the Asgard. They concluded that the energy in the charger was something they had never seen before. It was a kind of power that could not be affected by them. But it can be judged that it was a power at the spiritual level. And this power can destroy the weird essence, which surprised them. They vaguely sensed that the weird nature might be related to the mind. This is a major breakthrough. For countless years, they have verified countless powers and methods, but no power can eliminate the true weird nature. Now, there is finally a power in the void that can do this. This is hope, the hope of the entire void, and even the hope of counterattack. So they made a decision. The Soul Master looked at Lin Yi in front of him and said calmly, "Hello, Manager Lin, introduce yourself. I am the Soul Master of the Soul Field. One of the elders of the Void Destiny Committee. The spiritual wave weapons you produce have attracted our attention. On behalf of the Void Destiny Committee, I want to buy spiritual wave weapons from you in large quantities. Talk about business? Of course, no problem. Sitting here at this time is the Blue Star clone, with a smile on his face, looking at the Soul Master. But the production of Lingbo weapons is limited. I can only guarantee that I can produce 10,000 Lingbo weapons of various levels every day, and a large energy storage device. The Soul Master nodded. That's naturally no problem. In the future, someone will come to pick up these weapons every day. I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation. The Soul Master and Lin Yi reached a deal, but Lin Yi knew that the other party came to him this time, not just for the deal. The first thing is over, how about we talk about another thing next? The Soul Master said calmly. I don't know what you want to talk about, Soul Master. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with a thoughtful expression. The thing is, we also conducted some special investigations on Mr. Lin and got some information. We are very interested in your ability, so we would like to ask you for a favor. What do you want me to do? We hope you go to the weird place. There is a strange place there, after countless years of exploration. We suspect that place is the source of weirdness and the starting point of all disasters. But any attempt to get close to there has failed. Once you enter that area within a certain distance, everyone will be weirded. Even beings as strong as our level cannot enter there. Lin Yi looked at the Soul Master in front of him. This sounds very dangerous. If you want me to go to this kind of thing, the price you have to pay is not small. Paying a price is inevitable. We have also learned your information through some means. You seem to be practicing the immortal system, and there is also a system of evolution. Both systems are easy to get started with, but difficult to master. Among them, your immortal system, the system should have reached the cultivation level of the void tribulation. After our discussion, we are willing to take out something. This thing is called the Time and Space Treasure Tree. This is a spiritual root that naturally extended when the void first appeared. Its function is very strange and has infinite mysteries of time and space. This tree will condense fruit, and every 100 million years, it will produce a time and space precious fruit. As long as the immortal cultivator eats this time and space precious fruit, he can directly condense the traces of the principles of time and space in his true spirit, thereby directly completing the void tribulation and the universe light tribulation. Entering the fourth tribulation of the immortal path, as long as you complete the final true spirit tribulation, you can completely step into eternity. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 934. At the same time, this mysterious spiritual root can resonate with the monks and become a magic weapon held by the monks. With this magic weapon, the monk can control space at will and affect the flow of time within a certain range. That's one of the rewards. The second reward is the ancient gods' creation that we got from the ancient gods' ruins. This thing is called an evolutionary crystal. It can evolve various acquired rules based on the 5 innate rules. It is the core of a trap commonly used in ancient god ruins. You have entered the ruins of the ancient gods, and you should have experienced traps involving various acquired rules. This is the ancient god's favorite method. This kind of acquired rules is ever-changing. If you are not careful, you will find a flaw, and then you will fall to death. The second system you practice very much needs this kind of acquired rules as a reference. This thing can evolve automatically indefinitely as long as energy is injected into it. It can accelerate the improvement of your second system. This evolution crystal is the second reward this time. Lin Yi was slightly shocked when he heard the 2 items proposed by the Soul Master. The other party can actually know what his own cultivation system is. This method is quite amazing. At the same time, he was also slightly happy, because he really needed these 2 things. If he can get it, his strength will take a huge leap forward. Especially for the evolutionary crystal, as long as energy is continuously injected, a large number of acquired rules will be evolved. When the time comes, he will integrate 365 perfect talents, and he will be able to easily absorb these acquired rules, evolve one Daomark world after another, and finally complete the Daomark universe. With the broad road in front of him, Lin Yi was naturally very excited. However, he was not rash and thought about it carefully. Once he enters the strange place, it means that he has to face all the dangers in the strange place. Although the upper limit of his spiritual waves has been greatly increased, if there is a being in the strange place who can consume all the spiritual waves at once, the result will be very dangerous. He would never underestimate the weird. It was an unimaginable terrifying existence that could tear apart the void for countless years. He didn't think that relying solely on spiritual waves could ignore its dangers. Lin Yi thought for a long time, and after a while he spoke slowly. I can't 100% guarantee access to the depths of that area. Once there is a danger that exceeds my ability to resist, I will immediately choose to retreat. Of course, this mission can be long-term. Whenever I feel like I have a challenge, I'll do it again. So you have to give these two things to me in advance. Lin Yi's request was undoubtedly a bit loud. After all, he wanted payment before the task was completed. But this is his request. If it cannot be met, he will not accept the task of Soul Master. The Soul Master looked at Lin Yi quietly and fell into deep thought. Once he agrees, he knows exactly what it means, and the risk is all theirs. But thinking about the strange dangers, although these two things are precious, they are nothing more than that to the entire Void Destiny Committee. He nodded and said, okay. The things can be given to you in advance, but after you get them, you have to go there within 7 days. Lin Yi smiled. Of course there was no problem. The Soul Master waved his hand gently, and 2 mysterious jade boxes appeared in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at the jade box and knew what was inside with a flash of green light in his eyes. A small and exquisite magical tree, about 3 feet high, with countless leaves like crystals, and space and time vaguely flickering inside. There is also a fruit growing on the top of the tree, which is slightly green in color. Just listen to the Soul Master say, this precious time and space fruit will take about 10 void years to fully mature. Lin Yi nodded. 10 void years was already a good deal. In another box, there is a triangular pyramid crystal, which seems to have countless mysterious lights and runes flashing inside. Lin Yi waved his hand gently, and the 2 things disappeared in his hands. At the same time, a note appeared in his hand. Sign the contract. With the guarantee of the contract, no one dares to play tricks. The Soul Master waved his hand slightly. No, I believe that store manager Lin will not ruin his reputation because of such a small thing. Lin Yi looked at the Soul Master and saw that the other party really had no intention of signing the contract, and he was thoughtful in his heart. Are you afraid of the strange power? Thinking of this, Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, okay, since you don't want to sign the contract, it doesn't matter. In 7 days I will go to the place you mentioned to find out. You should also be prepared. The Soul Master nodded, okay. Looking at the Soul Master's back disappearing outside the gate, Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of solemnity. A weird place? The source of weirdness. It's really a bit exciting. What exactly is weird? It can wreak havoc in the void for so many years. No one can see the truth. Shaking his head slightly, Lin Yi's figure disappeared here. The next moment, he arrived at the first floor of the underground maze. The jade box containing the evolution crystal appeared in his hand. Inside the jade box was a triangular pyramid. His eyes were shining with the light of the true destiny solution. He saw a strange structure inside the triangular pyramid. This structure was composed of a strange pattern. He had never seen such a pattern before, but they seemed to have power. The true destiny solution was analyzing the meaning of these patterns. He found that these words seemed to contain information about the 5 innate principles. Some of them were completely consistent with the information of energy and matter, and these 2 principles were completely controlled by him. These patterns formed a large pattern similar to the deduction structure. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed through his mind. This was like the 8 diagrams, which could evolve everything. But it was a pattern that was more essential than the 8 diagrams. This pattern was composed of 5 different small patterns, and these 5 small patterns were not flat, but 3-dimensional structures. This pattern formed a 5-sided structure, with 5 small patterns located in 5 directions, and a vast and illusory space in the middle. But it seemed that something was evolving inside. Thinking of this, a stream of spiritual energy was injected into it, and the spiritual energy was quickly absorbed by the 5 small patterns, and then they bloomed with wonderful light. The 5 rays of light converged in the center and evolved into various different wonderful lights. Lin Yi's true destiny and Taoism observed the light evolved in the center, which contained a lot of truth information, which was completely different from the 5 innate truths, a different truth. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 935. Update the latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu View I created as soon as possible. This is the mechanical acquired principle, an acquired principle that evolved purely through the 5 innate rules. Different from the acquired principles condensed by Blue Star martial arts, it does not contain any imagination of life, and is more mechanical, in line with the acquired principles of the movement of the void. It belongs to another direction of acquired principles. Traces of these acquired principles can almost be seen in the laws of operation of some things in the void. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Diamond Suit. After all, the void has been running for countless years, and various acquired principles have naturally evolved. After seeing these principles, Lin Yi's true fate interpretation quickly moved and turned these principles into information that he understood. Then, in his mind, these principles were quickly constructed and turned into new Dao marks. However, he did not integrate these new Dao marks into the original Dao mark world, but placed them on the other side. He wants to rebuild the second Daohan Xiaoqian world and compare it with the other Daohan world. One is mechanical evolution, and the other contains imagination of life. It is very important to see whether there are any special differences between the two Daohan worlds. Because this is very likely to affect the future Daohan universe, and even affect his ultimate goal, inferring his true destiny. True destiny is the power that truly relates to Lin Yi's fundamentals. He won't be careless or sloppy. Along with his understanding of the world, he has a certain degree of skepticism about the possibility of the immortal system moving towards eternity. Even for all the systems in the void, he felt that there would be huge problems if he wanted to set foot in true eternity. Especially after he entered the ruins of the ancient gods, he discovered a huge refutation. As the ancient god who created all the rules of the void, he was actually eroded by strange power. This in itself is a ridiculous thing. Because since they are the creators, they naturally master all the rules. Logically speaking, they should all have completed the 5 major rule immune eternal level existences, and this is only the foundation. How much hidden power they still have is even more unpredictable. But the reality clearly showed him an ancient god infected by strange power. Now, let him believe in the 5 tribulations of cultivating the immortal way. It's a bit ridiculous to be able to step into the eternal level and be invulnerable to any force. He always felt that there was something wrong with it and it was completely inconsistent with reality. So his focus has been on Blue Star martial arts. Compared to the immunity of the immortal Dao, he believes that after completing the Daohan universe, the possibility of the true spirit sublimating into eternity at the spiritual level is even higher. His current plan is to condense 2 different Daohan universes. One is the Daohan universe that is mechanically evolved based on the 5 innate rules. One is the imaginary Daohan universe that is integrated into the imagination of life and evolved. Now that there are evolutionary crystallizations, the possibility of deducing the mechanical Dao mark universe is rising rapidly. At this time, changes quickly occurred in his spirit, and the original Daohan world began to split. The mechanical Dao mark obtained from the jade box was separated from the original Dao mark world. At this time, two prototypes of the Daohen world appeared in Lin Yi's spirit. The prototype of the mechanical Daohen world began to quickly absorb various mechanical principles evolved from the evolutionary crystal. In the prototype world of mechanical Dao marks, a large number of Dao marks began to take shape rapidly. Then it was integrated into the operation of the prototype of the mechanical Dao mark world. As time passed, the number of Dao marks in the prototype world of mechanical Dao marks quickly climbed to 999. When it increased to 1000 tracks, a new world of mechanical track marks was born. At this time, the mechanical Dao mark world has the ability to self-evolve Dao marks, but this evolved Dao mark also complies with the 5 rules and can be seen in the void. One day passed in the blink of an eye, and a perfect world of mechanical Dao marks had appeared in Lin Yi's spiritual world. This small world contains 3000 pure mechanical principles. The small world is like reality, floating quietly in Lin Yi's blue star clone spirit. In the other direction of the spirit, there is a prototype of the imaginary Daohen world floating. The prototype of the imagined Daohen world was named by Lin Yi. The reason is that this Daohen world is composed of the imagination of living beings. Many of the principles in it violate the basic phenomenon of void. If such principles appear in the void, it will soon be annihilated by the powerful void force, because its existence will disrupt the 5 rules. 2 worlds, one positive and one reverse, made Lin Yi thoughtful. Collect free good books. Follow Book Friends Basecamp to recommend your favorite novels and receive cash red envelopes. It seems that more contracts will be signed in the future to allow more living beings to gather and imagine Dao mark. Only in this way can I complete the construction of the imaginary Daohen universe. Vaguely, Lin Yi grasped the most important thing in life. The thought of life, it is the most precious thing. That ray of spiritual light created something that should not exist in this world. And Daohen is the ultimate product of this ray of spiritual light. For a moment, Lin Yi felt that he wanted to deduce the 7th true destiny. I am afraid that he could only complete it by imagining the successful construction of the Daohen universe. Because this is the crystallization of the spiritual light of all living beings, and only this kind of crystallization can deduce the true destiny that violates the basic law of conservation of energy. The true destiny is infinite. In Lin Yi's heart, this 7th true destiny has already been named. Once completed, it will be a force that subverts everything. The task is heavy and the road is long. With a slight sigh, he knew that it was not easy to complete the construction of this imaginary Dao mark universe. What he had to complete first was the mechanical Dao mark universe. As long as he used this evolution crystal, he could complete the deduction of the mechanical Dao mark universe within a certain period of time. 7 days passed in a flash, and the human immortal clone had already set out and arrived outside the Void City. When the human immortal clone arrived, the Soul Master came to greet him. A door made of light appeared in front of the human immortal clone. Behind the door was the Soul Master, and at this time he showed his true body. Shrouded in colorful light, people could not see the real appearance. "Mr. Lin, please come in." Lin Yi stepped into the light gate, and the next moment, he came to a palace. An existence that exudes the aura of eternity sat high on the platform in the center of the palace. His eyes were very calm, and he looked at Lin Yi, who had arrived here with a hint of kindness in his eyes. "Hello, Mr. Lin. I am the chairman of the Void Fate Committee. Since you are here, let's get started." The chairman of the Void Fate Committee obviously did not intend to waste time and went straight to the point. Lin Yi smiled and said, "No problem, we can start anytime." At this time, he was carefully looking at this mysterious chairman, the legendary person who was about to enter eternity. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 936. This person once caused a miracle coin to disappear forever, and set off an epic event of the void vision. Lin Yi's true destiny solution kept flashing, and he could see a true spirit flashing in the deepest part of the spirit of the man in front of him. In the true spirit, the 5 and 8 Dao marks were shining and blending into one. With the appearance of the 5 and 8 Dao marks, this fusion was affecting the other party's true spirit, and it seemed to produce some wonderful changes. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The entire void seemed to resonate with him, and an extremely powerful force was contained in it. Lin Yi felt a huge pressure. Once this fusion was completed, the president in front of him would have an unimaginable qualitative improvement. Stepping into the legendary eternal level, I don't know what kind of existence he will become. True Destiny Daija kept observing, but because the other party seemed to be about to step into eternity, a wonderful light was emitting from the true spirit. This light could even resist his True Destiny Daija's prying to a certain extent. He could not see the deepest secrets, but only some surfaces. Unless he could continue to observe for a long time, or even the Lingbo sphere would increase again, allowing him to increase the injection of Lingbo. Only then could he see the true secret of eternity, but he still couldn't do it now. He felt a little regretful in his heart, as this was the second thing he couldn't see through at all. In the final analysis, Lingbo is limited. If Lingbo is unlimited, there would be no secrets in front of me. He took a deep breath and reluctantly retracted his gaze. At this time, the president slowly raised his hand. The whole palace was bright, and countless runes and patterns appeared inside the palace. Then, a huge black vortex appeared in front of them. The vortex slowly opened, and there was a strong and strange breath on the opposite side. But this strange breath was firmly locked in the vortex, and not a trace of it could escape. Something flew out of the president's hand and instantly landed in Lin Yi's hand, a token. This is a communication magic weapon. You can activate it when you want to come back. It will reopen the channel and let you come back. But it must be within a stable range. At that time, we will activate a more powerful formation to lead you out. If it is in the mysterious area you are exploring, it cannot be activated. Lin Yi nodded calmly, I understand. After saying that, he put the token away casually, stepped into the vortex and disappeared. As Lin Yi entered the vortex also suddenly shrank and disappeared in the palace. In the palace, the lord of the fairy palace, the soul master and the president all looked at the place where Lin Yi disappeared with calm eyes. Do you think he can successfully explore the real secret? I don't know. If he can't do it, then we can only wait for you to step into the eternal level and go there in person. The lord of the fairy palace said calmly. Okay, wait, I hope he can get something. The black wind whistled past, and the strange fog filled every corner. In this mysterious dark place, a figure quietly appeared here. Lin Yi was filled with green light, and his true destiny was boundless and his true destiny was constant. At the same time, in the Wanqi house, a large number of strange beings had been detained there, waiting to be killed. This exploration will definitely consume a lot of spiritual waves, and he is preparing. He looked around and now it was in a dead area. The ground was black gravel, and it seemed that there was no trace of life. It was full of dead silence everywhere, and even the strange existence could not be seen. In front of him appeared an area shrouded in hazy distortion. It was about 10 kilometers away from him, and this distortion kept flickering. Looking at it, you know there must be something wrong over there. He frowned slightly, is this where they feel there is a problem? It is indeed strange. This is the first time I have seen such an obvious weird phenomenon in a strange place. Thinking of this, he jumped lightly and ran towards there. He touched the ground with his toes, and there was no resistance every time he accelerated. 10 kilometers only took 1 second. But when he was less than halfway forward, the ground suddenly cracked, and a terrifying figure rushed up from the desert. An extremely huge mouth directly submerged Lin Yi. The violent power grew wildly, consuming everything, like a natural disaster, and the instantaneous outbreak affected dozens of square kilometers. But Lin Yi, like a ghost, easily passed through this chaotic area. When he stood at the border of this twisted area, he looked back and saw a huge monster. The diameter of the huge monster alone was hundreds of meters, and its body was shrouded in a gray mist. Lin Yi's true destiny can naturally see through this mist, and there is a terrifying figure inside. The long snake-like body is covered with countless faces and limbs. Those faces were from different creatures, and those limbs were also from different creatures. The surface of this huge monster looked like countless creatures were growing on it. Lin Yi just looked at it quietly, and then looked ahead of him. There was a black distortion there, which extended to the depths. He took a step forward, and the next moment, the human immortal clone felt a strange power. This power seemed to invade his body and true spirit, causing him to be completely twisted and fall into a strange existence. But the power of the boundless true destiny and the true destiny root enveloped him, making him always in an untouchable state. The spiritual wave was constantly being consumed, but there was also an endless supply of power in the Wanqi house. Standing in this twisted world, Lin Yi looked around. There were twisted existences everywhere, and the first thing that caught his eye was various stones. This seemed to be a towering exposed mountain range, and the stones in this area were all in a strange twisted state. The strange shape made it look very scary. Lin Yi looked around, and the light of the true destiny in his eyes flashed, but his vision was disturbed by the twisted strange power. His eyes could only see an area of tens of meters. Once he exceeded this distance, the outside would become a distorted and blurred state. Lin Yi frowned. He couldn't use all his spiritual waves to use the true fate solution. He had to allocate the consumption of spiritual waves reasonably, and this was just the beginning. He walked slowly forward. There were hard rocks under his feet, but Lin Yi didn't touch them at all. The rocks under his feet were covered with countless twisted marks, like a series of weird pictures. It seemed that just touching them would be dangerous. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 937. Lin Yi could feel the constant consumption of spiritual waves while walking on the rocks. This distortion was trying to harm him. Without stopping here, he started climbing towards the mountain ahead. This area is very huge, and the mountains under his feet are just the beginning. His speed is not fast, only about 100 meters per step. Just taking the first step, a feeling of danger has already arrived as expected. A black shadow passed through his chest, silently, and so fast that it was impossible to stop it. Lin Yi just saw a black line flashing from a distance, and the next moment, it had passed through his chest. After the black line passed through his chest, his true life had already withstood an attack that would surely kill him. He turned his head and looked behind him. It was not a creature, it was just a twisted tentacle. The tentacle seems to have been broken from something, and irregular scars can be seen at the break. At this time, the tentacles coiled up like a snake, and the sharpest point coiled up like a snake's head and stared at him. The next moment, the tentacle turned into a black line and flashed in front of him. Lin Yi, who was already prepared, punched in front of the black line. A spiritual wave covered it, accompanied by a violent, chaotic fairy light. But something surprising happened to Lin Yi. The black line turned in the air, avoided his attack, and penetrated between his eyebrows. Under normal circumstances, he would have died for the second time without the protection of his true life. Lin Yi's eyes narrowed slightly. The broken tentacles were very sensitive, as if they had tentacles. The brilliance of the true meaning of life flashed in his eyes, which enhanced his observation ability. He immediately noticed the internal changes in this half of the tentacle, and the strange power changed in it, forming a wonderful feedback mechanism. This mechanism gives this half of the tentacle super-sensing capabilities. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's own sword appeared in his hand, forged from the treasures of the universe. A majestic spiritual wave and fairy light were injected into it, and the next moment, the sword suddenly flashed. The sword light was like thunder, and it was in front of half of the tentacles in the blink of an eye. At this time, the tentacle also turned into a black line, dodging the sword light. This half of the tentacle seemed to be aware of the threat of spiritual waves, and was unwilling to collide with the sword energy filled with spiritual waves. But at this time, Lin Yi was performing sword control skills, and the sword light flickered like a dream. The sword turned into lines one after another, constantly intercepting the black lines formed by the tentacles. The two lines, with Lin Yi as the center, kept flashing, but there was no collision with each other. All objects touched by the lines will either be split in half or directly penetrated. There is no force that can stop them. In just a few short breaths, the surrounding rocks became riddled with holes. But there were more and more lines of sword light, gradually covering the surrounding area, enveloping the black line in the middle. This was subtle. Seeing that the time was almost up, Lin Yi made a move with the sword in his hand. In an instant, hundreds of threads transformed by sword light suddenly shrank. The sword light threads shrank at an alarming speed, instantly trapping the black threads formed by the tentacles in the middle. There was a crisp sound, and the black tentacles were cut into thin pieces by countless sword lights. The light of the spiritual wave invaded these fragments, causing them to turn into ashes in mid-air. A strong and strange essence was sucked into Lin Yi's body, transformed into spiritual waves, and at the same time increased to the upper limit of the spiritual wave sphere. The battle only lasted a few breaths, and Lin Yi felt his own digestion for a while. 10% of the strength in the body has disappeared. He casually took out a piece of spiritual jade, and the spiritual energy contained in it was quickly absorbed into the body and was not fully consumed. The spiritual jade was specially made and carried by him to replenish the power consumption of human immortality clones. The sword in his hand dropped, and he continued to walk towards the mountain step by step. A tentacle is so powerful. If an ordinary celestial Dao monk had arrived here, he would have died twice just now. It's really dangerous here. Continuing to climb up, he stopped after advancing another 10 meters. A ruin appeared in front of him, the ruins of a battlefield. He saw a pile of dead bones. This was a very large creature, at least 10 meters high. This withered bone was thrust into the ground by a black spear. The spear penetrated his skeletal head and pinned him to the ground. Seeing this scene, his heart froze slightly. Is this? Has there ever been a war? Lin Yi looked at the pile of dead bones, and his mind instantly began to restore the original appearance of the dead bones. Based on various principles, we can speculate on the appearance of this thing. Soon he had an idea in his mind. This is a cyclops. This skeleton originally had an eye between its eyebrows. He is about 10 meters tall and has 6 huge arms on his body. Now his bones are completely black, and the inside of the bones are riddled with tiny holes. This is the result of being corrupted by strange forces over a long period of time. But there was no mutation, which was very strange. Lin Yi's eyes fell on the black spear. I don't know what this spear was made of, but Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the brilliance of the true meaning of life. But he couldn't see through the true composition of the spear. It seemed to be a substance that didn't belong to the void. Thinking of this, he walked over and raised his hand to grab the black spear. The spear was 5 meters long, and it was obviously not for ordinary humans. When Lin Yi's hand touched the spear, his whole body shook slightly, and his spiritual waves began to consume. Obviously, this spear has a mysterious power that can destroy any life that approaches it. After so many years, this spear still has this power. It's incredible that it can hurt a body at the level of the heavenly immortal Dao. There was a trace of inexplicable look in his eyes, and a chaotic light filled his hands and spread towards the spear. The power of the spiritual wave covered the fairy light to prevent the invasion of strange power. Lin Yi's power was constantly invading the substance, and he wanted to completely refine this mysterious spear. As his power poured into the spear, he felt that the black spear had a completely different substance and power from the void inside. It is also different from the strange power, it is a completely new thing. It is not a substance that belongs to the void. It is not a strange power either. What is it? Finally, his power touched the core of the spear, which was an unimaginable will at the spiritual level. Kill, kill, kill. Destroy, destroy, destroy. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 938. The latest chapter of the Wanchai I created is updated the fastest. The spear was filled with destructive information, and it instantly impacted Lin Yi's mind, as if to drown his mind and transform it into an existence that destroyed everything. However, the true destiny and perseverance still firmly protected the safety of his soul. With a trace of solemnity in his eyes, Lin Yi fell into thought. The huge power completely submerged the core of this black spear. A group of black, twisted, and full of tyranny and destructive information was extracted from the spear. This group of information, like a will, was wrapped by Lin Yi's power, or more accurately, by the power of Lingbo. This information can only be touched by Lingbo, and the power of the human immortal clone cannot touch this group of information at all. Lin Yi controlled Lingbo and began to try to decompose this group of information. He was screening the useful information and wanted to see what happened in the past. Lingbo, like his extended arm, disassembled this group of information one by one. Some pictures burst out from the information and appeared in his eyes. The surroundings were blurry. A humanoid figure shrouded in black armor was 5 meters tall and held a 5-meter spear in his hand. His enemy was a 6-armed giant, and they were fighting fiercely. The 6-armed giant's fist was like steel, colliding with the black spear, splashing metal sparks. Every collision would set off countless shocks, knocking away the blurry figures around. The battle seemed to last for a long time, and the 5-meter armor giant suddenly burned all his strength. The majestic power was injected into the spear, and pierced the head of the 6-armed Cyclops with one blow. The giant was stabbed directly to the ground, and the spear pierced deeply into the ground. The giant was pierced and fell to the ground struggling, while the hazy shadows around him pounced on him. One after another, things that seemed to be weapons pierced his body and killed it completely. The armor giant, who pierced the giant's head with one blow, was burning with black flames all over his body, and his body seemed to be melting. He roared with boundless anger, looked at the distant direction behind him, knelt down respectfully, prostrated himself on the ground, and knelt heavily. Even though the flames on his body made his body melt continuously, he did not stop at all. When he raised his head and looked at the horizon, a pair of hazy dark eyes fell on him. The moment Lin Yi saw these eyes, something terrible happened. The spiritual wave was being consumed at an unimaginable speed, and 1/10 was consumed in just a moment. Lin Yi made a decision without hesitation. He immediately let go of the spiritual wave in his hand and the mysterious information. Without the restraint of the spiritual wave, the information collapsed directly in an instant. But at the moment of collapse, the information screen containing the dark eyes did not disappear. Instead, it looked at Lin Yi quietly, and at this time the spiritual wave disappeared again by January 5th. The speed at which the spiritual wave disappeared was getting faster and faster, and Lin Yi immediately realized that something was wrong. At this rate, even if he had boundless true destiny and perseverance, once the spiritual wave was exhausted, his clone would still die. At this critical moment, he turned off boundless true destiny and perseverance without hesitation. The moment he turned off true destiny, his body, his soul, and his true spirit were all wiped out in an instant, as if they had never existed. Along with Lin Yi's death, the picture containing a pair of eyes also collapsed. At the same time as the picture collapsed, at the level of the mind, the immortal true destiny was activated. After consuming about 1/10 of the spiritual wave, Lin Yi's human immortal clone reappeared in the world. #send 888 cash red envelopes. #follow the official account. Book Friends Base Camp, read popular masterpieces, and draw 888 cash red envelopes. Everything that happened just now was like an illusion, and Lin Yi was once again shrouded by boundless true destiny and perseverance. His face changed unpredictably. It was really too dangerous just now. If he was a little slower for a second, his spiritual waves would be completely consumed, and the only thing waiting for the human immortal clone would be real death. The complete demise of the human immortal clone would be inevitable. He took a deep breath, and a trace of relief appeared in his eyes. It's really terrible, just a pair of information from who knows how many years ago, can kill people. What on earth is that? Lin Yi was about to think about the eyes, but the next moment he sensed a trace of danger. He decisively cut off the thought in his mind and stopped thinking about the eyes, and the danger calmed down. He trembled slightly in his heart, and through these eyes he knew that there were still dangerous existences in the world that far exceeded his imagination. True destiny is infinite, it must be completed as soon as possible, otherwise there is no possibility of resistance in the face of such existence. This mysterious twisted area made Lin Yi more and more shocked. Every existence that appeared in it seemed to have nothing to do with weirdness. The mysterious armor giant and the mysterious six-armed giant had no origin at all. Lin Yi felt a sense of weirdness that permeated this twisted area. Could it be that this strange place had a civilization in a distant era? Is it the civilization of the armor giant? Or the civilization of the six-armed giant in front of us? With thoughts and doubts flashing in his eyes, Lin Yi looked towards the center of the mountain. All the secrets may still be in the center. Looking behind him, he saw a hazy, endless darkness covering the land outside the twisted area. It seemed that something terrifying was watching him quietly in the darkness. Weird place, full of danger and mystery. Take a deep breath and wait quietly. He was waiting for Lingbo to fully recover to its peak state. The blue star clone far away in the Wanchaiwu was quickly recovering Lingbo by killing weirdos. As the upper limit of the Lingbo sphere became higher and higher, the number of weirdos that needed to be killed also increased. Weird place. About 10 seconds later, Lin Yi started to move forward again. He walked towards the peak step by step, holding the black spear in his hand. This spear had been refined by him and shrunk to a usable level. This spear was made of unknown substances. Although Lin Yi had refined it, he seemed to be able to control only its size. He casually waved the spear in his hand and hit the ground with one blow. Suddenly, the ground exploded, revealing a deep pit, which was at least several meters in radius. He did not inject any power into this attack, it was just a light swing, but the damage caused was so terrible. In this twisted area, the rocks on the ground were very solid, and Lin Yi had tried to destroy them long ago. A rock the size of a human head, he wanted to destroy it with the power of the human immortal clone. At least 1% of the power of the human immortal clone would be needed to do it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 939. Update the latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu View I created as soon as possible. But this black spear can destroy rocks so easily, without even needing his power infusion. He immediately noticed how unusual this spear was. It's so powerful. It seems like it can be used as a weapon in this weird area. It's more useful than the sword I forged with cosmic treasures. Thinking of this, the sword he held in his left hand had been put into his dimensional pocket. Lin Yi didn't mind using any foreign objects as long as they were useful. Holding the spear and advancing for several hundred meters, he finally reached the top of the small mountain at his feet. Standing on the top of the mountain, he looked forward, where were the endless mountains. However, all the mountains are shrouded in distorted power, making them hazy and blurry, making them difficult to see clearly. Faintly, he could see the outline in the distance. There seems to be a deep darkness in the rolling mountains. There is indeed something there in the twisted center. Thinking of this, he continued to move forward without making any stops. When he continued to advance less than 100 meters, a figure stopped in front of him. The figure looked humanoid, and was wearing tattered armor, looking through the gaps in the armor. You can see a gray-brown body inside. The body was pierced from the chest, and some black things that seemed to be internal organs could even be seen inside. However, this body did not bleed. It stood there with its bare hands and its head hanging down, as if it had died standing up. But Lin Yi noticed the body's hands, with 10 sharp nails growing out from the tips of the fingers. The nails were pure black with weird patterns on them, which didn't look like something a normal creature would have. Lin Yi became alert and slowly changed direction, trying to go around. But when he came to the position 10 meters to the right of the body, his eyes suddenly went dark, and the other party had already arrived in front of him. Violent power surged toward him, and 2 hands covered with sharp nails were already in front of him. Facing the oncoming danger, Lin Yi waved his right hand. The spear had already struck the chest of this body with great force. Bang! A huge muffled sound exploded, and the armored body flew out directly. In mid-air, the place where it was hit exploded and turned into countless fragments. The 2 body parts fell to the ground, and Lin Yi's eyes showed a cold light. Looking at the half of the body that was still struggling, Lin Yi raised his steps and crossed over. The spear swung towards the ground in mid-air, cutting the upper body of the body in half from head to chest. The tip of the spear is like a sharp blade, very powerful. And this gun naturally carries a kind of wonderful power. The body that was separated from the middle naturally began to fragment and turned into countless powders under this power. At the same time, a strange essential power was sucked into Lin Yi's body, entered the spiritual wave sphere, and was completely transformed. Lin Yi immediately realized that this thing was also strange and was affected by the strange place. Did something change happen? His eyes flashed with thought, and he took a deep breath. Continuing forward, Lin Yi saw a lot of things along the way. There are all kinds of corpses that have been transformed into strange things. These corpses have different shapes, some are humanoid, some are monsters, and they don't even lack some simple limbs, but their lethality is amazing. This twisted area seems to be a battlefield. All these mutated existences are derived from the strange transformation of corpses. The closer to the central area, the more terrifying the pressure can be felt. This pressure pervades the soul and seems to crush the soul. Under the protection of Zhenming, it took Lin Yi a full 2 hours to pass through the surroundings of dozens of peaks and finally arrived at a dark area near the center. There was no light at all in this area, only pure darkness, as if there were giant beasts lurking in it. Lin Yi took a deep breath, with a trace of solemnity in his eyes. The darkness ahead was distinct from the area he was in, as if there was a black shield falling from the sky, dividing the 2 sides. Holding the black spear tightly in his right hand, Lin Yi slowly took 1 step forward. In the next moment, he passed through the black boundary and entered the dark interior. Hashtag send 888 cash red envelope. Hashtag follow the public account book friends base camp, read popular masterpieces, and draw 888 cash red envelopes. With a raised brow, he felt that the moment he entered, his body under the protection of his true life was squeezed by a huge force. The consumption of spiritual waves was directly increased by at least double. This speed of consumption made him take a breath. But then, his face returned to calm. Suddenly, a large number of strange objects were sucked into the spiritual wave ball. He immediately knew what was going on. It seems that those forces that have obtained the spiritual wave weapons have begun a new round of attacks against weirdness. Whether it is the canopy world or the void front line, this is a huge good thing for him. It's good now. There will be a lot of weird essence in a short time, which can help me recover the consumption of spiritual waves. There was a trace of relief in his eyes. What he feared most was the lack of spiritual waves. At this time, his eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny solution, and he began to look around. He saw countless murderous intentions, spread throughout every corner of this dark area. Many bones can be seen on the ground. These bones are full of holes, and all the murderous aura seems to be diffused from them. He frowned slightly. Murderous intention? Pure emotion materialized. The murderous intention that permeated at this time was not an invisible thing, but a physical existence. These murderous intentions seemed to have turned into wind, blowing continuously in this dark space. This cold wind of murderous intention seemed to be able to blow away everything. Flesh and bones will be blown into powder in this breeze, and even the soul will be directly annihilated. As far as his eyes can see, the range is no more than 10 meters. Everything in front is dark. Unless he increases the spiritual wave injection of the true destiny solution, he can see farther. However, he did not waste the spiritual wave, but slowly moved forward. There are countless bones under his feet, all of which are pitch black and full of holes. However, he, who was in the state of true destiny, would not touch these bones. Time passed by minute, and in a blink of an eye he advanced hundreds of meters, and at this time he was surprised to find something. That is, along the way, he saw only bones. Those were the bones of countless races, and there was nothing else. And these bones seemed to be piled up. He inserted the spear in his hand into these bones, and the result was that the entire spear was submerged in them. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 940. When he pulled out the spear, he could see that the hole made by the spear was a dense bone layer as deep as 2 meters. This was a very terrifying thing, which meant that there was a sea of bones underground. Is this really a battlefield? But it looks more like a corpse pit, and all the corpses seem to have been plucked out. Thinking of this, he suddenly had an idea. He took out a spiritual jade from his pocket and threw it out. Without the protection of Lin Yi's power, the spiritual jade was blown by the murderous wind around. The spiritual jade was directly shattered into pieces and was blown into ashes before it fell to the ground. The ashes did not fall to the ground, but were worn away into nothingness in the murderous wind. Lin Yi's eyes could clearly see the process of the spiritual jade constantly collapsing in the murderous wind. Being decomposed into invisible particles did not really disappear. These invisible particles are too small and can easily penetrate almost all substances. Looking at this scene, his heart was slightly shocked. With this kind of power, even a cultivator of the heavenly immortal Dao would not be able to hold on for long when he came here. He even saw that spiritual energy was blown into the same particles. This scene also made him discover a problem. It seems that no matter whether it is matter or energy, its ultimate essence is just a particle of different properties. This is a state that has surpassed the limitations of energy and matter, the most fundamental essence of everything. He thought in his heart, energy and matter are connected. Their origins are the same thing. Or all time and space, even the soul is made up of the same thing. And the so-called innate 5 principles are just the result of some kind of construction using these particles. Lin Yi raised his head, looked into the distance, and continued to move forward, no longer paying attention to the sea of bones and the wind of murderous intent. He began to accelerate continuously and move towards the distance. Time has no reference in the dark, and it is difficult to judge the speed of loss. But fortunately, there is a clone in the Wanchaiwu, relying on the spiritual wave ball at the spiritual level. It can keep the souls of the two connected at all times and maintain the cognition of time. More than an hour passed in a blink of an eye. This area was an endless sea of bones, and it seemed that there was no way to find the middle or the end. Lin Yi was moving in the direction of the increasing pressure in his spirit. The greater the pressure in this area, the closer it was to the center of darkness. After seeing a lot of the same scenery, he finally saw a different scenery. A stone tablet appeared in front of him, with a few strange words on it. Looking at these words, his eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny. He obviously didn't know these words, but he understood their meaning. The door of the dark side. With a slight movement in his heart, Lin Yi immediately took a few steps forward and looked behind the stone tablet. There was actually a big door here, but it seemed to be carved on a rock wall. Yes, a protruding rock wall appeared in front of Lin Yi. A black door was quietly painted on the rock wall. This door did not really exist, but was a black thing that seemed to be painted. Even the door itself was as uneven as the rock wall. Looking at this door, Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Is this the dark side door mentioned on the stone tablet? Where does it lead to? With countless questions flashing in his eyes, Lin Yi suddenly had an idea. He sank into the sea of bones underground and hid. A figure in a black robe slowly came here and looked at the dark side door on the rock wall. Lin Yi, who was hiding below, had the light of true destiny in his eyes and carefully observed this mysterious person. His eyes passed through the black robe and saw a piece of darkness, like a shadow. Or it was a shadow, hiding in this black robe. Shadow? What is this thing? Lin Yi's eyes flashed with doubts, not knowing what kind of creature it was. He took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity flashed in his mind. There are intelligent creatures in this kind of place. It seems that he should know this place very well. Just then, another figure appeared here. This figure seemed to be a real life form. It was wrapped in countless golden bandages and looked like a mummy. However, Lin Yi could see the truth inside through these bandages. A man with his eyes closed, seemingly in a deep sleep. His body was shriveled, like a corpse drained of water, but there was a will controlling it. Seeing two very strange existences in a row, Lin Yi's heart moved slightly. It seems that I have encountered some secret gathering. And these two people look extraordinary, the fluctuations in their bodies are beyond imagination. One is full of ominousness and depth, and the other is like the sea, endless. At least a power fluctuation of more than 10,000 times the level of the heavenly immortal Deo. Is there such an existence in this world? And I feel a pair of extremely close to eternal feelings from them, just like the chairman of the Void Destiny Committee. Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of disbelief. He didn't expect to find such a person in this ghost place. Just as he was thinking, the third figure also appeared here silently. This man also looked like a shadow. If it weren't for the true destiny, Lin Yi couldn't even see him. This guy seemed completely transparent. The three of them gathered here, and no one spoke, as if they knew each other. Lin Yi hid below, without leaking any breath. The true destiny root and the true destiny without boundaries completely wiped out all traces of him. As the three people gathered in this mysterious dark side door, they finally took action. The three people slowly came to the dark side door and each took out an object in their hands. There were three fragments, and if they were put together, it would just be a round object, flat, about 5 millimeters thick, with a slight hole in the middle. Is this the key? Lin Yi had a thought in his mind. The three people put the three fragments together and placed them in the center of the door. Then this thing that seemed to be a key was attached to the rock wall, or to the door. This mysterious key began to flash with black light, surrounding the round object. Countless mysterious patterns flashed, and it looked extraordinary. A faint black color spread from the round key to the surroundings, quickly spreading to the entire gate. Then, a completely black gate slowly emerged from the rock wall, broke away from the rock wall, and became reality.